Hey, Sean. There's like some humming on your audio.
I'm on
It
the
went away. It's good now.
yeah. So it was using this stupid one instead of this one up here I have. I don't know why my machine said it randomly. I think
It's still your audio is still kind of muffled. I mean, the background noise went away, but when you talk, it sounds muffled.
I try reconnecting here.
That's better. That's better.
Oh, okay. Maybe I was just talking muffled and not
Mhm.
projecting. I'm not. My throat's a little dry. So, how's it going? You done with your book?
No, I've been going ham. Like, so I'm wrapping up probably within the next hour the completion of the draft for the third chapter, which is firefighting.
Mm-hmm.
The first chapter was like 70 pages. The first chapter was Ready Set Go. That was like 70 pages. Second chapter was supernova releases. That was like 50 pages. And then this firefighting chapter that I'm trying to wrap up with. This is 100 pages. So I'm writing a novel, man. Um,
Pages based like, um, how are you measuring pages? Because pages can be.
I pasted into Microsoft Word.
Oh, okay. All right. So using standard spacing or whatever, um, not based on like some book format or something. Okay.
Yeah, this is single space, and just learning a lot. I respect Hollywood writers or even television series writers a lot. Like, I mean, there's parallels to like software development in regards to like having modules or scenes and transitions and maintaining certain principles so that things can appear seamless. Like I mean, this is it's a completely different world or universe. I don't know if you know anybody that studied like cinematography or like got really serious about literary like writing, but
I don't,
I have a whole new respect for it.
but I've been doing my own research on that this whole week. So, also,
What, because of our conversation or just in general?
well, yeah, well, our conversation, and then I started playing with using cursor a little bit, and then AI just in general to do. I'm like, the thing that it can do that I can't do very well or haven't developed is actually form like meaningful paragraphs and prose. Like I can come up with plot easy enough or whatever, but having it fill in all of the actual like, sensory text and stuff like that, it's like I got interested in it, and then I did start looking up different things like, okay, what is a structure of a paragraph really supposed to be? And it's like there's this leading line and then some details and whatever, and then you get that into scenes, which then scenes go into chapters and chapters into books and stuff like that, and then there's structures, and the structures are different depending on the, like there are different defined structures out there. Like you can follow a hero's journey structure, or you can follow the 3 act structure, or a mix of the structures, or there's a 7.1 that I was looking at too, and
Are you
it's
able to see my
yeah,
screen?
yeah.
Yeah, so this is the book cover I was considering. I'm not sure about the font style, but stuff like this.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Burn rate.
Yeah, since firefighting is the biggest chapter.
Makes sense. So yeah, I know what you mean about the idea of that it's like code that you could write a DSL over all the various elements of it, and you know reconstruct or compose those things up in different ways. Um, but the act of breaking things down into scenes and trying to think through like what the goal of the scene is and how is this not just an info dump or something stupid or whatever, how does it actually advance the story, like, or the core themes, or what are you trying to build with it.
So you're gonna help me write it?
No, I'll write my own. I'm looking at fantasy fiction.
I'm doing the
um,
same thing.
well, no, this is more like, I don't even know what you would call this. Would it be?
I
I,
mean,
I'm
these are
talking.
imaginary characters, right? It's fictional.
Well, yeah,
Like,
fiction's the thing, but I'm talking fantasy, like a
uh,
fantasy world, like the fantasy genre.
I could give you some of my subscriptions on YouTube for the past 2 weeks. There's like 4 people that I subscribe to on fictional novel writing.
Yeah, I've grabbed, like, I'm probably looking at them too. Although I haven't subscribed to it, but I have been watching videos about it. Things not to do, things to do. What's the best way to start your book? What's the worst way to start your book?
So
What
okay, so
mistakes do
you're
they make? You know.
so you're really serious about going on the journey of writing something. That's what it sounds like.
Yeah, I mean, and then just self-publishing to K. So that's like, I don't know. I like the idea of trying to compose something like that, but who knows? I mean, I could get bored with it, and I could probably
I didn't
do
even.
like I did, leave it like a table in my pull bar. But so I don't want to promise anything. But yeah, I mean, I've like it. I think I've always been turned off on it, thinking like, oh, it's going to be way too hard to come up with the amount of words. But I think too that there's a feedback cycle here, so I want to say that the more that I probably read that the AI produces, the better I might be at producing the things myself. And like when you're reading too, you can spot. It's almost like the AI's your ghostwriter and you're the editor, and you can just sit there and give it, you know, this
Well,
this
yeah, you're
you
like
know
the
this is
director.
redundant, or this is whatever. And at first I was like, well, people are gonna probably know this is, big AI crap shit. But I think the more you spend with it, I don't know how it's really different than an editor looking over something and being, important in it. Or I don't know, if you build 80% of everything and it just fills in that one gap that you're not good at, which is writing, prose or whatever, like, is it really that big a deal? I don't know.
I hate GIMP's user experience for trying to open files, man. It is not intuitive to me at all.
Yeah. What do you use a GIMP for?
I want to edit the book cover, but it's like
Like, specifically what, like, about the book cover?
I want to change this burn rate color to more orange to
Oh, I see. So you're
complement the
running filters
fire.
over it.
Yeah, I'm okay with this managing software projects being that font color, but this burn rate, I kind of wanted it to be more orange.
Gotcha. I was gonna say you could try paint.net, but they don't have as many filters. They do have some. Um, paint.net is probably my favorite kind of mid-range one. GIMP is obviously more powerful, but it's clunky too.
I
Um,
mean, I haven't messed around with GIMP probably in like 2 years, so I forgot a lot of
they changed too.
things because I forgot how to do layers, man. Um, and I really don't want to lock myself into a room for half a day to try to remember those basic things. Why is it so hard for me to find? All
Yeah,
right, what's
paint.net is easy to find the layers on. It's like
boom?
literally one panel that there's a dedicated button for.
All right, so it's this one right here, and so like I wanted to.
I
Where's the
can't see what you're
letter at?
seeing if you're doing something. So
Oh, you don't see my screen anymore.
I just see burn rate, managing software projects. I think you're sharing your window. Not sure. Not sure. But yeah, so the like fictional stuff I want to look at is I've kind of landed. I want to land on themes of like a midlife existential crisis type thing. I don't know.
See, this would probably be so like. Oh, are you hip to Google's AI Studio?
I'm aware of it. I haven't played with it.
It generated this cover for me.
That's pretty nice. I mean,
It's
I could
really
tell. I could
simple
tell
to
it's
use.
generated, but it only
It's
because
a
of
lot
this.
better in ChatGPT's
Yeah.
generation.
Only.
You
Yeah.
know when images are generated by ChatGPT.
Yeah. I mean, I would have guessed ChatGPT, other than that this seemed like higher resolution, only because of what's on the computer screens, which they both have hard time with. Because it's got that very like cryptic texty look to it. I think Midjourney is really the standard for image generation. I think everybody else kind of sucks at it, but I haven't tried Midjourney in a while. Although I bought a subscription to Cursor, so I might as well go and get all the tools. I don't know why if I'd been cheap about it. So
So you're a fan of it so far?
Cursor,
Yeah.
yeah. I'm noticing with both it and ChatGPT, as like editing any one piece of file once you get beyond a certain word count is painful. Like I think that I was writing a first chapter. Well, I was having AI help me write or write for me a first chapter last night, which I might not even have as the first chapter, but um, and it's somewhere in the area of 3,000 words, which I wanted to more target 5,000 or something like that. Um, but it started to kind of once it got beyond like 3 scenes worth of stuff, it started to really just not be able to keep up with it. So, and I found that with Cursor too. So I feel like what you have to do is break them up into. You probably have to maintain every file scene as an individual file if it's going to get the full context. Like I think it could read something short, produce some sort of like summarized version of the key points, and then use those going forward. But if you try to put it all together and say, hey, read this and edit the thing as a whole, it really just sucks. I don't know why that is.
You remember how to add this as a separate layer, like the captions? Are you
Yeah,
like,
isn't so the layer dialog is to your bottom and left or right there. There's layers, so there should be a plus button below it, but also there should be new layer, and then you're gonna have to actually probably cut the text or remake it in that new layer, cut and paste or remake in the new layer. Although I think it'd be better for you to cut and paste or just recreate it at this point. Reason being that you need to do two levels of alignment. So you need to text align within the actual text box itself or center. And then you need to center align it on the page itself, which is that element that you're adding, not the layer or whatever. So
all right? So you're saying do
do new layer.
new layer, say captions, hit OK.
Yeah.
This
Then
gets updated to captions, paste it back in.
yep. Now because it might already be like just a standard layer and not text anymore, can you edit the text still? If it can't, I would just delete it and remake it. Okay, so you need to center a line in here, and I cannot for the life of me remember how to do that. It might be one of those drop downs or those things
So
within it.
censor it. I thought I had to do it by hand.
No, you should be able to center a line within the text space.
Oh, center a line. Oh, okay.
Yeah, so you want to center a line or sorry, justify. It's on in your toolbar under text on the left, probably about halfway down under color. So there's that white color. So you need the centered one on it.
Okay.
And
That's it
that will
right here.
center it. Then you should be able to use the alignment tool, which I believe is if you're looking at that tool grid, it's one column over, three down. I want to say it's that one, the like arrowy looking thing. When you select that, you should be able to center that text center page or by itself, which is something that surprisingly I don't think Paint.net can do for some stupid reason.
Where?
So man, I wish I could like. So if you look in your toolbar, there's a second column, 3 down. There's like an arrow. Yeah, that thing. I want to say that is your alignment tool. Might be just a move tool. I don't know, but try clicking on that text when it turns into. Oh no, it's grabbing the whole thing. Maybe it's a different tool. It's been a while since I've used.
How do I even select text anymore?
You just Control Z. So like undo should grab it again. So your selection should be like a. There you go. Now Control Y until you lost the or whatever until you lose it. Then there should be an alignment tool in there. It should say like.
Man, I'll just do it by hand for right now.
Or hold on, maybe go to tools. Up. This is gonna bother me. It's either under layer, image, or tools. One of them. There should be like an alignment feature. Transform tools, probably, maybe. Align. There you go. The first one, Q. And then where the oh, there you go. Then when you do align, do relative to the page, and then do the centering one. So it's that first drop down there. Should be center to the image, and then there you go. And now do that centering there. Yeah, that should.
They're disabled. Do I need to select this first?
Oh yeah, probably.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, you're already.
How do you know all this stuff? How do you know all this?
It could also be. Well, try the distribute one. I don't know why that bothered me. It didn't actually.
It centered it.
Oh,
It did its job.
It just was like perfectly centered.
Yeah.
I know this because when I was doing it. Well, I'm gonna do Ludum Dare again in 2 weeks, but when I was doing Ludum Dare, I would do a lot of this kind of image manipulation.
Am I still in the? How do I know which layer I'm in?
So it's what's selected in that layer mode over there. So you have a floating selection, which is actually its own custom layer at this point, but it'll go down into captions once you kind of like leave it.
You said layer
on the right in that bottom box. See, there's those 3 layers. You have the floating selection below that. Yeah, up above.
Oh, right here.
No. Well, that's saying what
keep going
selection.
to the right.
Yeah, you were in the right box just above that. Because that's the you were just on.
Oh yeah. Okay, I see it. I see it.
There's your layers. Yeah.
It won't let me click on it.
I think what you need to do is lose focus on the burn rate so that it goes. Because what'll happen is that should bring it down to the caption layer. So you switch tools and just click anywhere. So now it's part of the caption layer. Okay. Now you can select the caption layer and adjust it from there.
Yeah, you're so smart.
Yeah, and actually, I think if you were able to then select both of them, you should be able to distribute them or center them to each other and then center them on the page or whatever. Or yeah, I don't know. You can even pick like the distance. You should be able to pick even the distance between those 2 items when you distribute them. But you can also just manually say where does this make sense to go and then just center align it. Get it way off center so that when you use that alignment tool, it's actually clear that it's doing something. I don't know why that tripped me out when you did it before. That it didn't. It's transform tools too up. If you ever do too, that sometimes too, I found that it's so it should be See, that's what I'm saying is it should be. Oh, there you go. Yeah, and then within it, you centered the text itself, right? Because that would also affect the thing. It could have a big off kilter. But I think it's just perfectly sized to the content, so it might not even be a problem. Anyways, another thing sometimes they'll use is Inkscape rather than that. They have great alignment tools in Inkscape, and then vector graphics you can add over things, so it's easier to draw stuff. But I don't know, it's a little harder to use. It doesn't have filters and things like that.
And then how do I click off of this stuff?
Just grab a different tool and click anywhere. Should be, well, maybe. Um, grab the like the first tool, the selection tool, and then it should apply. The other thing you can do is click on it in the layer mode and then just merge it down, which is over in that layer thing. If you select it, you should be able to do something like merge down.
Oh, okay.
I don't know why it's not like. So the merge down should be like one of the options below it, but I don't know. Oh, there it is. I don't know why it created its own kind of like separate layer there. That's weird.
And if I wanted to select this control again, I thought this was.
See, now I think it's been pushed into the layer below it, so I don't know that you can. So this is a place where Inkscape would make it a hell of a lot easier because entities actually exist. They don't get pushed into the layer below them when you lose relationships. So you can actually modify them and position them and all that kind of stuff. It's easier for layout. And then you need to merge your file. You need to merge your layers down. Otherwise, you're whatever. But I would say it is PNG, not JPEG, so you don't have as much what's it called, lossy compression. Although it should ask you what compression you want to use. So I mean, you'll want to, yeah.
Zero, right?
Yeah, I would go with like nothing. I just have it be exact. The other thing you could just do is save it as a GIMP project, but anyways.
Yeah, send me the invoice.
Yeah, I'll charge you at the billing rate of what ChatGPT do. I did find in some video that there is an AI out there that's good at putting text into things, but I don't know where it is or what it was called.
How do I? I'm confused.
Yeah, Midjourney is definitely the way to go for image generation, though. I think. At least if you want to chain like photorealism and stuff. I don't know how it does on text. I haven't seen text in there, but I think your approach of adding in that stuff intentionally after the fact is probably the better way to go.
Why am I having such a hard time uploading a file? Oh.
I don't know. I don't like coding anymore.
Images. Add files via upload. Is it browse files?
Oh, all right. How about we do this? We
No,
both
this is-
commit to writing stuff, and we keep iterating until we each have a hit. And
Until we
define
what?
that. Each have a hit. A book that actually, like a self-published book that actually sells really well.
That's what I'm trying to do.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, I'm saying we should both do it and just keep doing it until we have enough sales where it's like successful. You want to race? We should race to a monthly income amount on Kindle books. Not with any betting.
I think I'm taking a break after I publish this one because this stuff is tedious. I didn't realize how time consuming writing. I mean, I knew writing a book is time consuming. I didn't realize how time consuming the editing was.
Yeah,
You spend more time editing than writing it, or I mean, I don't know. That's what I think.
Yeah, I mean, one thing you might consider doing is just get some regurgitated crap out in the other chapters, um, just so you can read through the book fully and then develop a constant or continual, a consistent tone and stuff like that. But I don't know.
I don't know how to
But
delete this. So
yeah, the what I want to write is I want to write this fantasy type book, but I was thinking about trying to do I want to do themes of like midlife stuff, like um so there's this podcast I listened to a long time ago about the middle path. I think it was the Art of Manliness podcast, but this guy was a Jungian trained psychologist, and he talks about the middle path and this idea that for the first half of life, and I think we've talked about this before, but the first half of life, the world kind of gives you a script. You have duty to society that it gives you, which is, go to school, learn, get a job, get a spouse, have kids, advance your career. And then once you hit about midlife, there's nothing left. It's the next big event that society has for you is in 25 years, if you're lucky, you can retire, maybe. And you
yeah,
plan. Like that's the script. So you've got this void where you're no longer really needed. And so it's just like you have to sit there and go, well, what do I do now? And I think that's what the midlife crisis really is this thing. And in that podcast, they talk about, well, you have to basically build your own meaning and find your own purpose and ask what you want of yourself, which is a uncomfortable and really difficult thing to do. And then I want to kind of mix that in with kind of like three different themes that really just tie back to three different authors. So there's Viktor Frankl's The Search or Man's Search for Meaning or something like that, which is a great book if you've never read it. Viktor Frankl was like he was in the uh, uh, sorry, my brain just skipped a beat. He was in the concentration camps, and so he talks about it a little bit, but it's more like he just explores our search for meaning, and he believes in what's called logotherapy for psychology or something like that, which is that people are happy when they're pursuing meaning or purpose, and so you have to develop that in yourself. And then there's Camus, The Myth of the Sisyphus, which is the looking at the absurdity of life and asking the question, why don't you kill yourself? And then
mm,
and realizing that the kind of joke is, but the point is that Sisyphus, this being that was forced to roll this rock up the hill as a punishment for eternity, that he's actually happy because he's got his rock and he's made this choice to be happy and make that his purpose, and they can't take away his free choice and his free will basically to do that, like in imprison his body but not his mind, kind of thing. And yeah, it's absurd. And then the last one is the Ubermensch, which is Nietzsche, the idea of that. I can't remember what the actual book is called. So whenever he said God is dead, Nietzsche was worried about nihilism and people being like, well, if God doesn't exist and people don't have any reason to, be like, they don't feel like there's any meaning in the world, then what like, that's bad. And so what he tried to do is it's very much the idea of becoming the Superman, the Ubermensch, and that we have to kind of define our own and strive and just try to become better people, and that's where you should derive your meaning from. So I don't know, there's a bunch of these kind of thematic things. So but I want that set in this world where there's kind of this hero journey structure where this guy's kind of midlife and he's within a fantasy world anyways, and he's looking at this and he's semi-suicidal and depressed and all that kind of jazz, And male loneliness is another thematic element, like just the inability of people to create new friendships at a certain age. But anyways, the idea of those are thematic elements, but the whole story would be more about this whole like fantasy world that I try to develop based loosely on something I developed when I was younger. So yeah, but there's this the whole plot so far is basically that this guy, essentially there's this big war coming to the nation that he's in. He doesn't know that. People don't know that, but he's this kind of latent magic user, and but hasn't practiced magic because he wasn't accepted into a program. So he's this what I call a draftsman, which is kind of like an engineer, architect, cartographer, any sort of like the creation of any sort of diagram or whatever technical content would be what they do. And that he has to go and explore and map out these ruins, and he comes across this giant protector gargoyle thing that he because of his latent magic use gets connected to. And then they go off on adventures, and the gargoyle himself is like this trapped entity or whatever, and he basically acts as a mentor to kind of get him beyond his kind of whiny and
so you already have this outline?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, the main things I haven't figured out are, well, I've got the start mostly outlined. I've got the major elements, like, so in the beginning of the book, there's these hints towards this event that happened in the main character's life where something just, went wrong terribly. And there's also going to be this friend who kind of like abandoned him as a in that same era, or in some way backstabbed him, right? And that guy ends up being the antagonist at the end, and his arc is basically like he took his job or his place in this kind of what would be this magical order, and he goes up, and then he's kind of this ambitious guy, and he goes actually over to the enemy side and convinces them that they need to come and enslave the people here because he wants to be the ultimate ruler or whatever, he's kind of a sociopath, and he finds this, he's a magic wielder, and he finds this other like power on the other side, and they're going to come and basically invade. So
do you read fantasy novels?
No, not really. I mean, I read Lord of the Rings.
Well, you're gonna write one.
I read Lord of the Rings, and then I've recently listened to some other ones, but I don't have a broad range of knowledge about fantasy fiction. But I don't think it matters. No one's gonna read it anyways. But I don't know. I'm having fun composing it, so it's the journey, perhaps.
Several years ago, I think they made it into a movie. Maybe you meet Take Two. Maybe you even mentioned it. Abraham Lincoln and like a vampire or something.
Oh yeah. Abraham Lincoln, Vampire Hunter. I think that sounds right. Unless it was Zombie Hunter. I think it was Vampire Hunter.
I think they made it into a movie.
They did, yeah. Yeah, I suppose that would be historical fiction then. Somewhat, and fantasy.
Why?
There's a lot of these genres.
Why do you think, and I'm not sure if it's American or if it's American and European, why are white people so entertained by vampires compared to any other culture?
I don't know.
I'm trying to think of a parallel. What are Asians? Asians may be dragons, right? But white people too. Like what? I'm trying to figure out.
Every nation has dragons. Every continent. If you put people on an island that are all babies, and you left them for centuries, and let their society evolve, they would develop dragons.
I don't think Africans have dragons.
They probably have dragons. Everyone has
lions.
Dragons. Everyone has dragons. I mean, the Norse had dragons. The freaking Europeans, the Asians, they all have dragons.
Native Americans.
All have dragons. Yeah.
This is reminiscent of our debate about the crossbow.
We can, except for we have the ability to answer. What? And I don't know. Maybe it's So African cultures have serpent or dragon-like creatures with powerful mystical attributes. There are notable dragons. Nyami, which was created in Zimbabwe, Tonga. Serpent-like river god, sometimes with a fish body, snake or head, or vice versa. There's Ido-Hwedi, fawn people. Cosmic rainbow serpent or dragon. It seems to be more serpent aligned. Kind of like Asian ones are more serpent line versus. Yeah. Anyways.
So have you been struggling to get AI to actually like generate novel chapters for you?
No. Well, so when you break it down into scenes, it does a little bit better a job. The problem is when you try to compose those into one big thing and then have it edit it together to try to make it cohesive, it seems to have problems with that. So and for some reason, I don't know if it's maybe because I had less input into it, but like the fourth and fifth scenes of it just kind of fumbled them, and the dialogue was really clunky and whatever. So I don't know if it's because I used a different tool or what, but I have to go back and
are you using
edit it.
the free tools, or are you using like the more advanced models?
Well, for ChatGPT, I'm using just the 4.0 standard
Yeah, I wasn't.
one.
So
4.5 is not even available to me anymore.
So I use Gemini Advanced Flash 2.0 because ChatGPT wasn't really doing a good job. It does a great job as a novel editor, providing feedback, but I wasn't really having success with it actually generating like novel content.
So what I put into Cursor, I think it was using Claude, maybe. Although maybe I should have it try using Gemini.
Gemini is really good, man.
Yeah, if it allows. I don't know if it allows for Gemini out of the box or if you have to put your API key in for that one, but or maybe I just go to Google and because Gemini, are you paying for Gemini?
They have a free version, okay. But I'm paying.
What's their charge?
I pay 20 for ChatGPT. I pay 20 for Gemini.
Okay, so 20 is about the average for every tool then. Now maybe I'll have to try it. Because it's like
and then I have my scripts that I run that serve as templates, so that it's kind of like a REPL. Well, maybe not, but one thing is I keep having to refresh after like maybe half a dozen prompts. I always have to refresh the page to clear out its cache prompt stuff. And
I have trouble with ChatGPT.
And I copy paste. Like I update the templates with the latest section content, and I usually say, given the following feedback, in which I update the template for the feedback, using Markdown to expose the formatting of whatever content. For example, ## some title. Update the following content such that it addresses the feedback above. And I just keep using that workflow over and over again.
Yeah. So one good thing about Cursor, which I'd still recommend you just give it a try if you haven't yet, is that it'll show you the diff right in line too. So when you go and you look at it, you can actually compare and contrast what it created versus what it had before. So you're not, so if it makes something worse, you can be like, ooh, don't accept that.
Gemini will format the changes or the modifications
Mm-hmm.
using bold font.
Oh, nice. That works. I guess I could go to a thing like that, but then you have to manually edit it out, I suppose, or do you then have it edited for you?
I've been manually editing it out, but I mean, I'm sure I could probably come up with the syntax for the prompt for it to revise it or remove the formatting.
Cool. Yeah, actually, I've been playing with Cursor all week at work now.
I mean, if it's your draft, if it's your like first draft, you probably don't care about taking the time to do that anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, true. I probably spent too long. So I built out this whole chapter last night, and it's still not as many words as I want it to be, because it's like I think you're supposed to target like 5,000 words for a chapter. Although maybe that's totally arbitrary. You can
Dude,
pick what you want. But
you want to see how many words I have for my firefighting chapter? this will be interesting. Hold up.
But maybe that's wrong.
Let me see.
Oh. Yeah, well, it's 2,000 to 5,000, so maybe I'm right in the range. So actually, Thriller is a lot shorter.
How do I get the word count? Here we go.
9.
I
think you have
that's not
to
right.
select all, maybe, or unselect all, maybe.
$35,000.
Nice. So you're about
109 pages for one
15,000
chapter.
away from a novel length. So isn't a novel 50,000 too?
This is one chapter.
Well, that's one chapter.
It's
That's
one
a
chapter.
long ass chapter. That's a book, like
It's
half.
109 pages.
It's an act. That's way too long. No, it's fine. I don't know, but I'm looking at more like fictional.
I mean, what bothers me is how do I do this? Oh crap!
Ooh, backup images. No.
What bothers me is look at the difference in the size. Like Supernova release is 53,
Mm-hmm.
and then firefighting is 215. It's like 4 times.
Yeah. Interesting.
So,
have you looked at the Kindle Direct Publishing workflows yet, and how that looks for your next step? Self-publishing.
at a high level, I invested like 5 minutes Googling Amazon book preparation or Amazon Kindle preparation. What's stressing me out, and we talked about it, I think, a couple weeks ago, is I, I I mean, it doesn't have to be big bang. Like, it doesn't have to be a simultaneous. Here's the Kindle, and here's the Audibles, right?
Yeah.
But I have to get the audiobook out, and the question is, how much is it going to cost me, quote unquote, to do it right with actual like, um, basically with a payroll to hire voices versus using 11 Labs or whatever it's called, and I'm not confident that it's really at a high enough quality for an audiobook.
Yeah. I don't know. So there might be other services out there that provide very high quality reads, but
I really don't.
11 appears to be, or
Is what
11
it is.
labs. That seems to be like the the standard.
Okay.
I could be wrong, but
Yeah.
like I burned an hour looking into it.
The thing that's stressing me out is on KDP you have to tell them whether it's AI, whatever. They don't seem to do anything with it yet, but it does kind of like screw me. Plus, I don't know how to, because they give you these two options and it's freaking me out. So if you spend a shit ton of time into like world building and all this stuff, and you just have the AI fill one in, they have an option to do AI assisted versus AI generated. It's like AI assisted, you wrote most of it, but like how much editing before you're just classified as, well, it wrote it. Like it's not even dropped.
But why does that matter?
I don't, it doesn't at this point, but it might in the future. They might do it also with algorithms for like, they might say like, oh, if this is AI
The
generated and it's getting shitty reviews, we're gonna bury the hell out of it.
AI generator or not, you're the director.
Yeah, I know.
It the way I look.
But it is as well. So Amazon KDP had a problem where people were dumping shit books into it, like just volumes. So they made it so you can only publish so many per day and all this other stuff, and then they make you declare AI use, but they haven't done anything with it yet because I'm guessing they're holding to wait to see how much of a problem it becomes for them, and then they'll start doing it, and they'll probably do it subtly through AI or not AI, through algorithms already. They haven't already started doing it where they just bury, like, shadow ban you basically.
I didn't know that.
But
I
I don't
hope
know.
that,
I mean,
I
we
hope
don't
that
know.
doesn't affect me.
We don't know what's inside of Amazon's, what they actually do. But I've looked in, if you go and search books, you'll find clearly AI stuff, especially covers and that. So it might work. I don't know. But, so you're doing like what's called like a high content book, which is what I'm looking at too. But a lot of people are doing these low content books, which are like coloring books and journals and stuff like that.
Mm.
So
No, my book is likely going to exceed 800 pages.
yeah, because or high content books are harder to create. Like they're just like it requires more. The barrier to entry is higher to do it
And then the
effectively.
question,
You can still put crap out, but
and then the question is, my gut feeling tells me I probably should is hiring an editor after it's all done and said, instead of just relying on AI to be the editor for me.
oh, true, yeah. Because there's things like I think it can mess up. Like one of the things I need to go back and review is the tense, like past tense, future tense, and make sure the tense is right. Because it's writing this, or gosh, it feels weird. It's like I'm composing it. I'll call it that. I'm composing it with like a first person view. And so I think there's things where if you're actively talking to someone, it might be like past tense, but if you're thinking, it might be present tense. I don't know. It's weird. Like
Well, if
it seems to mix the
no,
two.
no, no, no. If a dialogue is a dialogue. The whole point is for it to seem like a casual conversation, just like you and I are having right now. I don't think you should even be concerned with that.
Well, yeah. So I think it depends on the well. So you have a mix of sensory elements that you're describing. You've got a mix of internal monologue, and then you've got dialogue, right? And that's and then descriptions of what you're doing. So it's like, do you say I stepped out onto the thing, or do you say I step out onto it? Is it present or is it past? Or like I don't know. I just need to review tense because getting tense wrong, I feel like is a big faux pas. But anyways, I need to get over clunky. Like I think the main thing, actually, one of the hard things is I don't think it writes dialogue all that well. Although when I was using Claude, there were some really things I liked about what it generated. There was this like one line where he's in with this head draftsman or whatever, and the guy's like, "Your work is useful
and then he pauses occasionally. And it's like the pause is kind of like, huh? But anyways, I'm sorry. That all makes sense, but anyways, yeah. So I've got to still figure out the actual overall arc of the book. I know generally that there's this big kind of baddie out there, and that there's this gargoyle type creature that basically becomes a mentor. If you looked at like the hero's journey arc, like novel structure and different novel structures at all, the hero's journey is cool.
What's the hero's journey? That's a book.
No, the hero's journey. Well, there was a book where it was outlined, but it's a structure for stories that is almost like you see it all over the place. So Star Wars is a hero's journey. Harry Potter is a hero. Lord of the Rings is hero's journey. It's basically a set of common things and events. So if you put it together,
yeah, I think I understand it now.
Yeah, so like everyone will have, for instance, I think it's called like the rejection of the call or something like that, where the hero is given a call to adventure, and they initially reject it, trying to stay in their ordinary world. So in this case, it's like Luke saying, "Well, I can't go off and do this because I gotta take after my uncle or whatever." For Frodo, it's like, well, I want to go back to the Shire and whatever, and I don't want to take this ring to Mordor, and what the hell, yeah. So you can ask it the question like, what is a hero's journey structure? It'll give it to you, and then it can give you, a range of examples from Dune. I think is a hero's journey. There's a bunch of them. So, they're after you.
It's a Jewish ambulance.
Yeah. Oh, and there's always like
apparently Jews have their own ambulance. Did you know that?
Is it because of kosher laws, I suppose?
I'm not sure, but it's like a yellow, it's like a lime green and blue ambulance truck.
Yeah, I'm guessing it's because of I'm guessing it's because of the whole whatever laws.
The question is, am I breaking the law if I decide to just ignore it behind me and continue driving, and now pull over to let it through?
Yeah, I would just let it through. I don't know. Somebody's probably in a tough time if they've got an ambulance.
Some Palestinian is like up that.
Some Palestinian send the Jew ambulance.
I'm gonna brake check him. Maury shadow banned. Whatever happened? You remember we used to have Gamler. You remember him?
Well, we took 2 weeks off, and he hasn't come back yet. So maybe he just needs to remember. Send him an email. Find his.
I don't have his contact information. I can probably find him on Twitter.
Probably Gamlor at something. Is he even on X anymore? Like I've come to just believe that. Oh yeah, he's got Gamlor's blog. Then you go to Twitter. Does he still use it? Oh yeah, Roman Stoffel. Gamlor.info. There you go. Anyways. So you got to keep me on track here. Make sure I write this book. I need to have something ready.
How much time are you giving yourself?
I don't know. I mean, obviously, it'd be nice if it's as fast as possible, so that time is money. But I don't know. I don't know.
Let me change.
I care about the story, so
your first milestone is what?
Oh, what should I do? The first act, maybe, of the book. Actually, I mean, a first chapter would be good, but even that would be fine. Which I have a first chapter, but I don't even know if I'll be. So, like, have you done research on first chapters and what they're supposed to be and that kind of thing?
No, not just the first chapter. The preface that's been in the back of my mind.
Even if you should have you might have a preface, but
the abstract
whether the book has a preface or a prologue or whatever. Yeah, all that kind of stuff. So it's like, do you like? I hear that like the first 10 pages are the most kind of important to draw the person in. And if your pacing is too slow or you just info dump and
first
all this stuff.
paragraph.
Yeah, well that's important too. Like you have to get the hook in really early. And so like I'm thinking about that because my opening scene is at this point is him kind of being stuck at work and not being able to actually do anything and just basically failing at what he's doing. And then he goes up to this tower and he's like, thinking he wants to kind of jump off it basically. Before he ends up getting interrupted by an urgent message type of thing. But the which was supposed to set the him as kind of this tragic kind of internal struggle type character, but in the second what would be the second chapter, he's fallen through like he's in these old ruins and he's fallen through the floor. And you kind of get the recovery from that, and he discovers this whole secret chamber, and he finds basically what they're looking for. So that might be a more interesting start, more engaging start. I don't know. I was thinking I might just create a couple and say, "What do you think?" to my wife because she reads more than I do. So.
When you gonna have your do you plan on writing every day?
Yeah, how about we just make that? Say when I come next week, I have done at least an hour every day since then of work on this. If I have more than that, great. If I have nothing, but I at least say, I sat down and here's a bunch of shit that I'm not going to use, but it's here. I think
your situation is more challenging than mine because you have a wife, you have kids, and you have a dog, and you should still be staying physically active in regards to maintaining your body.
Oh yeah, I got to do that this week too. So, but yeah, that's why an hour a day seems like I can do that for sure. Like I can make time.
7 days a week.
For the next set, well, until we meet next, yeah. So just ask me that and keep me honest.
For the next 8 weeks.
Well, let's take it a week at a time.
Okay.
But because obviously that's actually better than the goal being a more of a systemic goal like that, like working on it every day, at least for an hour, is way better than probably being like, I'm going to have this done by next week, because you could fail at that goal and then you're just a big failure. Like, because it just might take longer. You know what I mean? Like,
the part that I've run into,
couldn't put together the first act because it's just too hard. Like
the part that I run into is when you write like 25,000 words.
You have to read it.
Yeah. Well, you can get AI to give you a summary.
Yeah. Anyways, yeah.
But it's a couple things. It's when your other chapters don't really fit seamlessly into the chapter that you've spent all this time on. Like there's just a discrepancy. And you're like, oh, crap. How do I address this? How much content that I had to put in here now is worthless and I have to rewrite?
Mm-hmm.
Or there's a disconnect where you have a scene, or you have like this character that has like this internal struggle, but you really didn't prepare the reader for how that all came about, and you're like, okay, how do I retrofit?
Yeah, well, that's kind of the fun part of it too. Like, I missed.
No, it's not.
Or like they don't later, like something tragic happens to the character, but you don't care about him yet. So now I need to manufacture a reason to care about him, or whatever. Um,
Yeah, but the art is how do you maintain the reader's attention? Because if you do it too late, then they're going to drop off and put down the book. So the whole it's kind of I mean it's kind of like social media. I think. How do you keep them hooked the entire time? How do you maintain their attention the entire time, regardless of your plans to patch up missing details? They may not stay that long. So that's the part that is a constant struggle for me.
yes. So some of the things I was reading is like, or listening to on YouTube is stuff like, foreshadowing and building in questions in it where you leave basically you start a thread of thought or call something out that's like, well, why the hell, like that's weird, kind of a thing. And then they have to build the questions of what they want to know in their own mind, and then they'll go out and find it. So it's like, God, it's unleft finished business. um, there's also something with like, you should start every chapter. Well, no, your chapters are long ass chapters, so I don't even know how you do that, but maybe you start every scene. um, you should end every scene with a like a essentially like a cliffhanger type thing, the next
Yeah, yeah.
question. And you should start the next scene trying to begin to resolve the last scene's problem or whatever. But I don't know, I think there's stuff there. I mean, technically, from perspective, I wonder too if instead of having these big chapter files, if it would be better to have um, smaller scene files with like um, with a degree of like hierarchy above it that you have the AI fill in. So you have like a general overline, and then within this section you have an overline of the section, and then within this section you have another like description of the chapter, and then you have another scene description, and you build out this like hierarchy where it can know where you're in and whatever in your story and what the stakes are, and then maybe provide some sort of like, here's examples of chapters or scenes that I like example ones, so that it can maintain consistent tone with those. Or
So
I don't know. I
you
think there's ways of structuring the data. Like this, I feel like is a technical problem.
have you seen
And
the
yeah,
have you seen the movie Brooklyn's Finest
it sounds familiar, but I don't know that I've seen that movie. No.
with Don Cheadle? Um, who's the white dude from Training Day
Brooklyn's Finest.
and and The Purge?
Oh, maybe. Is this where they were like
Three cops, but they're all
uh,
three cops in like Brooklyn, but I mean, none of them know about each other, but they're all connected
no,
based on
no,
a
I
series
don't
of
think I've seen
events.
this one.
It's a
But it's
good
got
movie.
like, yeah, it's got, oh god, not Richard Gere, Ethan Hawke,
Ethan
Anton
Hawke, yeah.
Fagua, Don Cheadle, Wesley Snipes. Yeah.
Movie's really good, and so so like the book that there's a couple considerations that I've had about the book that I'm writing. Do I follow the model of different characters that what they have in common is they work for the same corporation, but they have their own short stories based on a series of events that transpired of that corporation, which kind of models, or what I would like to model, the movie Brooklyn's Finest, right? Each of them have their own story, but they're all
Hmm.
interconnected, right? Or do I, and this is what triggered me saying this, but something you said a couple minutes ago, do I go from start to finish a novel in which each chapter tends to focus on emphasis on specific characters, but the other characters are still a supporting role, and each chapter alternates. And what you said specifically is the conclusion of the last chapter is a cliffhanger, and the following chapter is going to reference the last chapter and basically inject the hook for what the current issue is. I don't have that right now. I have cliffhangers that 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 tease what the next chapter is going to be about, but then in the introductions of the following chapters, I don't address the sequence of events from the last chapter. Besides, what the whole story is based on is um, the CEO has decided to drop a bombshell about a new product and it's going to be delivered in 12 months and it's going to revolutionize the corporation, and the corporate partners are ecstatic, investors are ecstatic, but the development teams, the the project managers, everybody is basically grabbing their forehead because they know good and well that with a given work culture, they're not going to be able to do it. That's the whole premise of the book.
Hmm. Yeah, I don't know what the answer there for you is. So you're talking, is this like an anthology of stories?
Yeah, is
Do they come together at the end? Is it like you get these different perspectives and it's all building up to one big climax at the end? So
currently everything is short stories
yeah.
with a common setting. Right, the common setting is corporation. This new project called Titan Ledger needs to get delivered, and then there's a countdown. But the company already has a history of putting out fires, and it did for the existing system. But now they need to deliver this new system while still maintaining the old system or old products.
Mhm.
Um, I think it would be easier for me if it's just a book of short stories that still have a common
Well, that's whatever.
like
I mean, I think that's
com-
whatever. If you break it up into scenes, maybe like or like you can kind of structure chapters can be short stories. Have you? I haven't really read this book, but I mean, I've read a little bit of it. But have you looked at Game of Thrones before?
no, I refuse to watch it.
No, I'm
Um,
talking about the books, which are
no,
supposedly different. So I think my understanding is that the Game of Thrones books are all written from different perspectives, and that they like he intertwines it all together. So you're getting, this guy in the north in one chapter, and you're getting this guy over here in another chapter, but they're all of their. So you've got these many different story arcs or lines going, and they all begin to interweave towards a big payoff. Um,
mm,
some other things I learned, like through the reading of or for research, is like you should think of what your writer's promise is as kind of a guiding principle. So like what does the reader, when they're done with this book, what should they get from it? Like what am I promising to them in the writing?
yeah, that part's covered.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah. So there's that, and then a lock. I think one brought up a lock line, which is something like, what is your main thread? Like what's the main thread of the entire story? But if you're doing an anthology of shorter ones, it might not, in a common world. I don't know. So how many chapters is or how many words is just your first chapter? Because if you're at like 30,000 already.
First chapter is the first chapter. Well, I can tell you how many. All right, so um, the last chapter, which I'm wrapping up with, called firefighting, that was 118 pages or 35,000 words. It'll be easier if I just tell you this. Firefighting is 215 kilobytes.
Yeah, no, I'm looking at word count, because so a novel is like 50,000 words is like the
Well, I
standard for
mean,
a
if I do the
minimum.
math, given the ratio, you were asking about my shortest one. If 118 pages or if 35,000 words is my largest chapter, and my shortest chapter is 1/4 of that, then 35 divided by 4 is what is that? Is that 8,000? 9,000? Close to 9,000 word. 9,000 words for my shortest chapter.
Yes. So what I'm saying is if your first chapter is 30,000 words long, that's a way too long a chapter.
It's not. My first chapter is 15,000.
Oh, I thought you said the first chapter was 30,000.
My
Okay.
last chapter is 35,000. My
Oh,
first chapter
so
is
one
like,
chapter is 35.
yeah.
Do you
Uh,
think you could expand those chapters into their own individual books? Like if you just set and then release them as a series, that's another thing you could do.
I thought about it. I don't think it's gonna work
You don't think you could? Well, you could do a like a novella series, right? Or do you
because
think that they're
we already have plans. Believe it or not, there were like there's like 17 planned chapters, and we're like, this is gonna take forever. Um, what what if we were to imagine this to be a series? What chapters are absolutely essential to establish the franchise of books? And then we identified four topics, or not
me
four.
being you and the
We
AI?
identified like uh, 8 or 9 topics that would reflect 8 or 9 chapters. No, it wasn't AI. It was Odie and
Oh,
myself
oh, I got you.
thinking about the anti patterns of project management. And
Hey, Gamor's back. Oh, he's using his real name this time. But I'm
so
saying is
I'll tell you right now what the chapters are versus what we. Give me a second.
because I think one of the Kindle strategies out there is that you use a series as a basic like a release cadence or whatever, and maybe they could be novellas instead of novels for each one, so they're shorter books, but they're in a series, so it's an anthology series. So if you go the short story direction, it might be better to just develop each one of them into their own novella, then do the series. And that would allow you to release the first one quicker while
Yeah,
you work on the next one.
I mean, in theory, I understand what you're saying, but
Yeah.
as a consumer, I don't think they're going to buy a book called Ready Set Go, um, or
Well,
buy a book called
yeah.
Death March. Like, if the intent is to provide guidance through a fictional novel on how to manage, or some considerations for improving how one manages a a software project, then I think they want the Bible, for how to do that. So
Gotcha.
here's
Yeah, that makes sense because it's a if you're writing just purely fiction from a this is a story, like that's its value, is not to teach you something, it's more of just to entertain you, then it'd probably be better just well, based on the way that you've described anyways, it might be better to do a those
yeah.
phased
So
releases, but I could understand what you're saying.
here's the chapters in bold that's going to be released as the first book: Ready Set Go, Death March, Supernova Release, Feature Creep, Hero Syndrome, Watermelon Reporting, Meeting Mania, Fire Firefighting Culture, which yeah, and then Change Board Approval. This one right here that's in bold. Everything that's not in bold can basically be deferred for like another book if I if I'm not that burned out,
Yeah.
such as cargo cult management, role conflict, the bus factor, silver bullet, seagull management, analysis paralysis, broken telephone.
Well, could it be? Could those things just be woven in as thematic elements within the different chapters? I mean,
I don't.
or do you
They
want
they
to
they
save?
they are. Odie was saying that they really deserve their own chapters. They a lot of these are like woven in already or closely related to other chapters, and they kind of leak into other chapters. But Odie was saying that they deserve their own chapter. But I'm not fitting all this stuff in. Maybe if the first book gets some buys and it gets some decent reviews, then I would consider expounding on that.
Well, don't get stuck in number 16 while you're doing this. So
Haha.
that's a lot. Like I struggle with that too, because it's like
For
you
project
go out.
management or just
Well-
as a developer?
Well, I mean, just for going to do writing with AI, like a inspired by what you're doing. There's just so many different things you go out and start to learn about the practice of writing, the meta around it, and there's just so much stuff, like I said, the act structures, the purpose of a scene, point of view, tense, tone, all of those kinds of things, literary devices, plot devices, like, and then you start to go into like what you said, and you start to analyze, well, why do I care about this, or why do I, is this too not engaging enough to start? Is it going to catch someone if they were to pick up this book? Like, if you actually care about the content, which it you could sit there and just churn on it trying to make it perfect, just like code, right? I mean, it's like developing software. The hard part is doing
you know what I love doing? I love doing this. Hold up. I love doing
check.
that.
Oh,
Yeah, I love doing that.
Do you go to a page to grab the emoji?
Yeah. Yes.
Try. Okay, go to the next line where you're gonna put a check, and then do dot or Windows key period.
Okay,
and then find the green check box, which you should be able to search for.
Oh, man, you're smart.
Then do that. Bam. Now you don't have to go somewhere and copy anymore. There's also some other things in there that you can use, which is kind of nice. But I've just saved you like 2 minutes every time that you go to get a check mark. But yeah, Windows period is a cool feature. Oh, Roman or Gambler, the company he worked at got bought, so now the first time at a larger corp. So I guess firsthand experience in such things, at least for a while. Yeah, you're screwed, Gambler. Welcome to the jungle. Wait, watch that. No work will ever get done again. No meaningful work. Just kidding.
Oh yeah, and this one is almost done.
Yeah, so you're not too far off. I would recommend trying out Cursor though, dude. It's even for your like, well, you probably can't use it for work because of the nature of the job you're in, but dude, just for it might help with some things. Although it might have trouble with the size of your text. It's not structured well. Or not that is not structured well, but it's not structured well for AI, which is it has a tough time with larger length stuff. Like, you can summarize it really well.
Actually, Death March
isn't really hard.
Death March isn't done. Odie is writing that, but man, he hasn't made any progress at all, and I'm afraid that he's not going to.
Oh, I see. I didn't realize you guys were writing this together. I thought this was just you.
We agreed to, but like, this is all the stuff I got done, and like he hasn't really made any significant progress on this.
Maybe you should have Gambler write it.
Yeah, Gambler, write my
right? Watermelon reporting. That's the first time I've heard that term, though.
So you know what it is?
No,
I didn't know either, and he had to explain this to me a couple times. It's when.
I was gonna make. I had this racist thought go through my head.
Yeah, I mean it's
all right,
natural. I had the same thing too.
Yeah.
Watermelon. So watermelon is green on the outside, red on the inside.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, so like just extrapolating that, it's you give your good metrics up front and people are distracted, right? Or something like that.
Yeah,
Or they're like topical metrics.
you're not being transparent. You're giving false truths.
Yeah.
Um,
Our like our visitor count is up, blah 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 blah. But
yeah.
but then you go into the details and it's like,
Or
well,
you made demo a
that
feature and
60% of that's bot traffic, you know.
yeah, or you made demo a feature, but there's no real business logic. It's just hard coded to do exactly what the demo needs it to do.
Yeah, but
Um,
that's a valid strategy though, because especially when you're getting into demoing for investors and stuff like that, because you know that you're going to be able to build out the feature.
yeah, well, that
There's
was
this book called Accidental Empires, and it talks about how I think it was like the demo for Word, like almost none of it was written, but he just went in and followed the exact script through all of the like all of the things that he knew worked. So the demo comes off great, even though if you were to actually use the software, it was a total shit show at that point in time. But now, obviously, Word's doing quite well. So
and I want to write this chapter and
I hate
change it for
cabs.
reward.
Oh my god, that was what broke me for my first company. I'm like, I do not want to go to this stupid meeting every freaking week. I can create a small little email for you or a thing, and if you have more questions, reach out. Like it should be an ad. No, we had this big ass cab meeting that was in response to something that it wouldn't have even solved. It was like we had a database outage and every precaution was taken, but there was a problem with the software, like on the vendor side or whatever. And it's like, how is the change advisory going to help that? It's not.
And
Like
half
they
the time
followed the best procedure, the
and
established SOP for it.
half the time with my experience, the people on the board or the people that aren't even involved with the actual like features,
Yeah.
right? They're
Yeah.
just
Change log. Just give them a freaking change log. And if they have questions and just do it before it goes out. And if they have questions, they can reach out.
hey
Yeah.
Roman. So I'm on I'm on my laptop,
You
so I
call
don't
him
see
Roman instead of
messages.
Gambler.
Hey, well, I know who it is, but
Yeah.
I mean, hey, gambler. I mean, yeah, whatever. Let me read. Hi, oh no's, I've been identified. Some good titles. Interested in the content. Well, gambler, I could send you the first 3 pages, but it's the first draft, so it really, really should be horrible. If you're interested, I'll send it to you.
Roman Stoffel
And
sounds like an Italian
it's
dessert.
3 chapters: Ready Set Go, Firefighting, and Supernova releases. Um,
Anyways, I suppose it's probably about that time.
the company I work at got bought, so I'm now the first time at a larger corporation, so I get more hands-on experiences and such things. Cool, good stuff. Hey, all right, yeah, I gotta. This Friday.
Yep.
God, I gotta be careful what I say before I get fired again for it.
Yeah, I suppose. I don't know. Man, I had a tough time at work this week though, because it's just like whenever I get hyper fixated on something like this, like the writing bit, like my mind almost doesn't let me work. Yeah, I have completed barely anything this week, and I sit here try. It's like I'm not going to let you think about this. I need to reserve your mental capacity for other things. So I got to try to buckle down a day because I feel bad. But anyways, all right. Well, I suppose we'll see you next week, and I'll make sure I put in my hour every day.
Yeah, I'm glad that we're both excited about something. So we'll see how long it takes to maintain. Yeah, we'll catch up. See you.
All right. See you. Bye.
See you, Gambler.